Good afternoon, my friends. You read that title right, about why I currently hate my Jeep. It's not necessarily that I hate my Jeep as the vehicle itself. I mean, it's a good running vehicle. It's just, I've been spending the last couple days looking at aftermarket parts for, the usual stuff: bumpers, lifts, lights, roof racks, all this other kind of stuff. And, you know, I'm, I'm struggling because everything seems so cookie cutter, with modern Jeeps. I mean, a lot of it is bolt on, which makes it easy for the average person. You don't need a lot of tools, you don't need to be a fabricator or anything. But at the same time, I'm like, that kind of takes away from, I don't know, the soul or the essence, the uniqueness of owning a vehicle like this. And a lot of people have them these days. I mean, I drive around and I see, I go to town, 30-minute drive down the road, and I'll probably see, 20 or 30 Jeeps by the time I get everything done. And, a lot of them are stock, and that's fine. That's one thing. But, I look at the ones that have been modified to a certain degree, and, it just all looks the same to me. The bumpers all look the same. And the thing about the bumpers that I laugh about is, they might be a steel bumper and they might have a hoop on them or whatever, but they don't look much different than the stock bumper, other than it's made out of steel. And I'm like, okay, I get the practicality about that, but, your Jeep doesn't look any different, Um, I'm going, I struggle too with the fact that a lot of the companies that I used to trust and love have gone out of business. Poison Spider doesn't exist anymore. Uh, River Raider, which was bought by Hawk Off-Road, they went out of business. I'm trying to remember the name of the company that made part of the snorkel system I had on my last Jeep. Part of it was River Raider, and part of it was like an inline filter system. They went out of business pretty quick, like shortly after I got that system in place anyway. But a lot of these companies, they're just gone. And there's some things that like, granted, I had a Poison Spider louver on my last Jeep, hood louver. But near as I can tell, and I may have missed it, I don't know. Those aren't real options for this type of Jeep. Just different things like that I'm noticing. Like I was watching a guy on YouTube the other day. His channel is White Dog Overland. Excuse me. And he was at an Overland Expo, which he even admitted, he's like, I hate these things because they're so over commercialized. People have rigs out here that you can tell they never take off-road anywhere in any way, shape, or form. And he brought up a point too. He's like, people will have Jeeps in here that cost $150,000 and they all look the same. They're all just cookie cutter, copy and paste. He's like, what's the point, if you can't make something your own? And I'm working on it with this Jeep slowly but surely. I've got this rack back here, which helps me out for, storage of stuff, because I go to the range a lot. So having my tools handy, having targets handy, stuff like that, it's just, it's all right there. And eventually I've gone back and forth. I'll probably take the back seats out here pretty soon, just because nobody other than the dogs ride back there. And I'll probably, I've thought about getting Goose Gear system again, but I probably won't do that. They make nice equipment, but it's very expensive. So I'll probably just get some 3/4 inch plywood and go to work with a saw and make my own. These things happen slowly but surely. But it's so weird to me because, part of what being in the Jeep world used to make it exciting was people were doing different things with their vehicles. And nowadays I just see the same thing over and over again. You know, nothing different. And don't even get me started on the whole duck concept. And you know, I still don't understand that one. But you know, you can do what you want to, obviously. But to me, that just looks stupid to have 80 ducks sitting there across the dash of your Jeep. You know, again, it doesn't really do anything to make your Jeep stand out other than look annoying to me anyway. Yeah, so these are the kind of things that I'm struggling with this Jeep. I just don't know. Uh, you know, I keep looking, and you know, it's like my last Jeep. Another thing I did was when I cut the fenders off, I didn't have front turn signals, so I took turn signals from an old CJ, and you know, I cut the holes out of the grill and installed them. And you know, every once in a while, somebody see me coming up at night, and they'd be like, "Oh man, I thought you were driving up here in a CJ, not an LJ." You know, it made it to where it was different. You know, I didn't know anybody who was doing that. I saw some pictures online, people doing it. You know, because you know, really, there's nothing original in this concept. But you know, another thing I did that I never saw anybody do online or anything was I fabricated a gun rack into the roll bar, and it served two purposes. One, help keep the dogs from falling out the side like my old hound dog did that one time. But also, you know, if I'm out hunting, I can just, you know, throw the rifle up there and scoot on down the road to the next hunting spot, or you know, on my way home, whatever. It was just handy to have. You know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that with this one because it's a 4-door. It's not a 2-door. It's made different. You know, and I don't know. It's just so weird to me. Like I say, I don't necessarily hate my Jeep. It's just so different than what I'm used to dealing with. Even the JK I had, I was starting to do goofy stuff with it, you know, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe not. We'll see. You know, I've had this thing since October, and other than some stickers, this rack here, and the tires, uh, I really haven't done anything with it, which I will say, at least with this model, because it's a Rubicon, I was able to put 35-inch tires under it without having to get a lift kit or anything like that. But they're 35 by 11 and a half, which they work, you know, great on stock rims. I don't have to worry about them busting a bead or anything. But I don't know. We'll see. Y'all might think I'm crazy too, or maybe not. Maybe y'all notice it too, especially if you've been in the Jeep world for a long time. But you know, that's just my thoughts on the thing. All right, peace.